Dear friend, welcome to this quiet night of companionship. As the moon hangs gently in the sky, casting a soft glow through the window, let us put aside all the noise and distractions of the day, relax our minds, and slowly walk into the world of Charles Dickens' classic novel Great Expectations. Tonight, we will talk about the main characters in this book, their joys and sorrows, their confusion and growth, their mistakes and redemption. My voice will be gentle, my words will be slow, and I hope that in this warm companionship you can feel peace in your heart, let go of all worries, and drift off to a peaceful sleep. Let us take a deep breath together, inhale slowly, and exhale gently. With each breath, feel the tension in your body melting away, feel your mind becoming more and more calm. Tonight, there is no hurry, no pressure, just you, me, and the warm stories of the characters in Great Expectations. We will take our time, sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph, to walk through their lives, to feel their emotions, and to let their stories wrap around us like a soft blanket, bringing us comfort and peace. First, let us get to know the author of this great novel, Charles Dickens. Dickens was one of the most famous writers in the Victorian era, and his works are known for their vivid characters, profound social criticism, and warm humanistic care. Great Expectations, written in 1860 to 1861, is one of his most representative works. It tells the named Pip, who grows up from an ignorant and humble orphan to a young man chasing great expectations, and finally realizes the true meaning of life through hardships and setbacks. In this story, every character is full of flesh and blood, with their own unique personalities and growth trajectories. They are like mirrors, reflecting the complexity of human nature and the ups and downs of life. As we talk about them one by one, you will find that their stories are not only part of the novel, but also have a subtle connection with our own lives. We all have moments of confusion, moments of longing, moments of regret, and moments of growth. Tonight, let us take our time, no rush, no pressure, just let the story flow slowly, and let our hearts relax in this gentle narrative. Charles Dickens was born in Portsmouth, England, in 1812. His childhood was not easy. His father was imprisoned for debt when he was a child, and he had to work in a factory at a very young age, pasting labels on shoe polish bottles. This painful experience left a deep impression on him, and it also made him more aware of the hardships of the lower class. Later, he became a journalist, and gradually began to write novels. His works often reflect the social reality of the Victorian era, exposing the cruelty and injustice of society, and eulogizing the kindness and sincerity of ordinary people. Great Expectations is no exception. Through Pip's growth, Dickens shows us the emptiness of pursuing wealth and status, and the value of kindness, sincerity, and love. This novel is not only a story of growth, but also a hymn to human nature, a reminder that no matter how complicated the world is, we should always keep our original intention and be kind to others. Let us start with the protagonist of the novel, Pip. Pip is the soul of the story, and his growth runs through the entire novel. When we first meet Pip, he is a little boy about 7 years old, living in a small village on the marsh in Kent, England. He is an orphan, raised by his sister Mrs. Jo Goggery and her husband Joe Goggery, a blacksmith. At that time, Pip's life is simple and even a bit difficult. His sister is a harsh and irritable woman, who often beats and scolds him, calling him a little brute and making him feel inferior and afraid. But fortunately, Joe, his brother-in-law, is a kind and simple man. Joe treats Pip like his own child, protecting him from his sister's anger, comforting him when he is sad, and giving him the only warmth in his childhood. In those cold and lonely days on the marsh, Joe is like a ray of sunshine, illuminating Pip's young heart and planting the seed of kindness in his soul. Let us imagine the marsh where Pip grew up. It is a vast, desolate place, with endless wetlands, cold winds blowing all year round, and the distant sea roaring faintly. The sky is often grey, and the ground is covered with a thin layer of dew, making it damp and cold. Pip's small house is located on the edge of the marsh, simple and shabby, with a thatched roof and earthen walls. Every morning, when Pip wakes up, he can hear the sound of the wind blowing through the marsh, and the sound of Joe's blacksmith shop in the distance. Those sounds are the most familiar sounds in his childhood, sounds that bring him a sense of security even in the coldest days. At this stage, Pip is an innocent, kind, and humble child. He has no great ambitions, no desire for wealth or status. His greatest wish is to grow up to be a blacksmith like Joe, work hard every day, and live a simple and peaceful life with Joe. He is grateful for the little warmth he receives, and he treats everyone around him with sincerity. For example, when he meets the escaped convict Magwitch in the marsh on a cold Christmas Eve, he is filled with fear, but when he sees Magwitch's hungry and tired appearance, his kindness overcomes his fear. He secretly steals food and a file from home, brings them to Magwitch, and even helps him file off the iron chain on his leg. At that moment, Pip does not think about any reward, nor does he think about the consequences of helping a convict. He only acts on his inner kindness, a kind of pure and innocent kindness that has not been polluted by the world. That cold Christmas Eve is a memorable night for Pip. The snow is falling gently, covering the marsh with a thin layer of white. The wind is howling, cutting through the air like a knife. Pip is walking alone on the marsh, shivering with cold, when he suddenly meets Magwitch. Magwitch is dirty and ragged, with an iron chain on his leg. His face is pale and haggard, and his eyes are full of despair and hunger. He grabs Pip's arm tightly, his hands are cold and rough, and he says in a hoarse voice, "Give me food. Give me a file, or I'll cut your throat." Pip is terrified, his legs are shaking, but when he looks into Magwitch's eyes, he sees the pain and helplessness hidden in them. At that moment, his kindness prevails. He nods, and promises to bring food and a file to Magwitch the next morning. That night, Pip can't sleep. He lies in bed, thinking about Magwitch's appearance, thinking about his hungry eyes. He knows that helping a convict is a crime, that if he is caught, he will be punished severely. But he can't bear to see Magwitch suffer. Early the next morning, before dawn, Pip quietly gets up, steals a loaf of bread, some cheese, and a file from the kitchen, and runs to the marsh. He finds Magwitch hiding in a ditch, shivering with cold and hunger. Pip hands him the food and the file, and Magwitch eats greedily, tears streaming down his face. He thanks Pip repeatedly, and tells Pip that he will never forget his kindness. At that moment, Pip feels a kind of warmth in his heart, a kind of satisfaction that he has never felt before. He realizes that helping others is a kind of happiness that cannot be replaced by anything else. But this peaceful and simple life is broken when Pip is invited to Satis house, the residence of the wealthy Miss Havisham. Miss Havisham is a strange old woman who wears a tattered wedding dress all day long, lives in a dark and decaying house, and surrounds herself with clocks that have stopped at the same time. She invites Pip to her house to play, but in fact, she is using Pip as a tool to take revenge on all men. Because she was abandoned by her fiancé on her wedding day, her heart is filled with hatred and resentment. She adopts a little girl named Estella, and raises her to be a cold and cruel woman who can break men's hearts. When Pip first meets Estella, he is deeply attracted by her beauty. Estella is beautiful, elegant, and has a noble temperament, but she is also cold, arrogant, and indifferent. She looks down on Pip's humble origin, mocks his rough hands and vulgar words, and calls him common. Satis House is a strange and gloomy place. The house is large and magnificent, but it is full of dust and decay. The curtains are drawn all day long, blocking out all the sunlight, making the house dark and cold. The clocks in the house are all stopped at 20 minutes to 9, the time when Miss Havisham's fiancé left her. The wedding feast is still set on the table, with mouldy cakes and withered flowers, a symbol of Miss Havisham's frozen heart. When Pip first walks into Satis House, he feels a sense of oppression, a sense of sadness that permeates every corner of the house. But when he sees Estella, all his fear and unease disappear. Estella is like a ray of light in the dark house, beautiful and dazzling. She is wearing a beautiful dress, her hair is neatly combed, and her face is pale and delicate. But her eyes are cold, like ice, without any warmth. Pip is deeply attracted by Estella. He has never seen such a beautiful girl before. He looks at his own rough hands, his shabby clothes, and feels a deep sense of inferiority. Estella looks at him with disdain, and says, "You are common, Pip. Your hands are rough, your clothes are shabby, and your words are vulgar. You will never be a gentleman." These words are like a knife, stabbing Pip's heart. He feels ashamed and embarrassed, and he wishes he could disappear into the ground. From that moment on, Pip's heart begins to change. He no longer wants to be a blacksmith like Joe, he no longer wants to live a simple and humble life on the marsh. He begins to yearn for the noble life that Estella represents, yearn for wealth and status, yearn to become a gentleman so that he can be worthy of Estella. This meeting becomes a turning point in Pip's life. For the first time, Pip feels the pain of inferiority because of his origin. He begins to dislike his humble life, dislike his rough hands, dislike his lack of education. He starts to yearn for the noble life that Estella represents, yearn for wealth and status, and yearn to become a gentleman so that he can be worthy of Estella. At this moment, the seed of great expectations is planted in Pip's heart. He no longer wants to be a blacksmith like Joe. He wants to leave the marsh, go to London, and become a gentleman with status and wealth. This desire becomes stronger and stronger, and it changes the direction of his life. After returning from Satis House, Pip becomes very quiet. He often sits alone on the marsh, looking at the distant sea, thinking about Estella, thinking about the noble life in London. He begins to hate his own origin, hate his rough hands, hate his lack of education. He starts to save money secretly, hoping to go to school, to learn knowledge, to become a gentleman. Joe notices Pip's change, and he is very worried. He asks Pip what is wrong, but Pip refuses to tell him. He is ashamed to tell Joe his thoughts, ashamed to tell Joe that he no longer wants to be a blacksmith like him. Not long after, Pip receives a mysterious letter, telling him that he has inherited a large fortune from an unknown benefactor, and that he will be sent to London to receive education and training to become a gentleman. Pip is overjoyed. He firmly believes that this benefactor is Miss Havisham, and that she is preparing him to marry Estella. With great excitement and longing, Pip leaves the marsh, leaves Joe and his sister, and goes to London. He thinks that his life will be completely changed, that he will soon become a noble gentleman, and that he will be able to win Estella's heart. But he does not know that this great expectation is like a beautiful bubble, which will eventually burst, and that the road ahead is full of hardships and setbacks. The day Pip leaves the marsh is a sunny day. The marsh is covered with green grass, and the wind is gentle. Joe and Biddy come to see him off. Joe gives Pip a small bag of money. His eyes are full of sadness and hope. He says to Pip, "Pip, my boy, be a good man. Don't forget where you came from. Don't forget the people who care about you." Biddy also says to Pip, "Pip, take care of yourself. Remember to write to us. Remember to keep your original intention." Pip nods, but his heart is full of excitement and longing for London. He does not notice the sadness in Joe's eyes, does not notice the worry in Biddy's heart. He turns around and walks towards the distance, towards the train station, towards the unknown future in London. When Pip arrives in London, he is deeply attracted by the prosperity and bustle of the city. He rents a luxurious house, buys expensive clothes, hires servants, and starts to live a life of extravagance and indulgence. He spends a lot of money on parties, on clothes, on all kinds of unnecessary things, trying to prove that he is no longer the humble boy from the marsh. He also makes friends with some so-called gentlemen, but these friends are only interested in his money, and they do not really care about him. Among these friends, Herbert Pocket is the only one who treats him sincerely. Herbert is a kind, optimistic, and progressive young man. He comes from a noble family but has no arrogance. He treats Pip as a true friend, reminds him not to be carried away by vanity, and encourages him to pursue a meaningful life. But at that time, Pip is so indulged in the vanity of being a gentleman that he does not listen to Herbert's advice. He even begins to look down on Joe, who comes to London to visit him. He thinks that Joe's rough appearance and vulgar words will embarrass him in front of his friends. He treats Joe coldly, even avoids him, which deeply hurts Joe's heart. London is a bustling and noisy city, full of people and carriages, full of luxury and vanity. Pip rents a large house in a wealthy area, decorates it with expensive furniture, buys all kinds of fashionable clothes, and hires a servant to take care of his daily life. He often holds parties, invites his so-called friends to his house, drinks wine, dances, and talks about trivial things. He thinks that this is the life of a gentleman, that this is the life he has been longing for. But deep in his heart, he is not happy. He feels empty and lonely, because he knows that these friends are not sincere, that they are only with him because of his money. He misses the simple life on the marsh, misses Joe's kindness, but he is too proud to admit it. He is trapped in the vanity he has created, unable to get out. Herbert Pocket is a good friend of Pip's. He is kind, sincere, and optimistic. He comes from a noble family, but he has no arrogance. He lives a simple life, works hard to pursue his own dreams, and never looks down on people from humble origins. When he first meets Pip, he is attracted by Pip's sincerity and kindness. He treats Pip as a true friend, and often reminds Pip not to be carried away by vanity. He says to Pip, "Pip, a true gentleman is not about wealth and status, not about expensive clothes and decent etiquette, but about inner kindness, sincerity, and responsibility. Don't forget your original intention, don't alienate the people who care about you." But Pip does not listen to Herbert's advice. He thinks that Herbert is jealous of his wealth and status, that Herbert does not understand the life of a gentleman. He begins to alienate Herbert, and spends more time with those false friends. One day, Joe comes to London to visit Pip. He is wearing his best clothes, but they are still rough and shabby compared to Pip's expensive clothes. He stands at the door of Pip's house, looking nervous and embarrassed. When Pip sees Joe, he feels a sense of embarrassment. He does not want his friends to see Joe, does not want them to know that he has such a rough and humble brother-in-law. He treats Joe coldly, and says to him, "Joe, why are you here? I'm very busy now, I don't have time to talk to you. You can go back now." Joe's face turns pale, and his eyes are full of sadness. He says to Pip, "Pip, I just want to see you, I just want to know if you are doing well. I brought you some food from home, the food you used to like." Pip looks at the food in Joe's hand, feels a little guilty, but he still says coldly, "I don't need it. You can take it back. Now, please leave, I have guests coming." Joe nods, turns around, and walks away slowly. His back is lonely and desolate, and Pip's heart aches a little, but he quickly suppresses that feeling. He tells himself that he is a gentleman now, that he should not be associated with such a humble person. During this period, Pip's character changes dramatically. He is no longer the innocent and kind boy from the marsh. He becomes vain, arrogant, selfish, and ungrateful. He is obsessed with wealth and status, and he forgets the kindness that Joe has given him, forgets his original intention, and even forgets the person he used to be. He chases Estella wholeheartedly, but Estella is still cold and indifferent to him. She continues to break his heart, but Pip is unwilling to give up. He thinks that as long as he becomes a more noble and wealthy gentleman, Estella will eventually fall in love with him. But he does not realize that Estella's coldness is not because of his origin, but because she has been trained by Miss Havisham to be a heartless tool of revenge. She does not know how to love, nor does she know how to be loved. She is just a poor puppet controlled by hatred. Pip often goes to Satyr's house to see Estella. Every time he sees her, he is deeply attracted by her beauty, but every time he is hurt by her coldness. Estella often mocks him, says that he is still a common boy, that he will never be worthy of her. She says, "Pip, you are just a blacksmith's apprentice. No matter how much money you have, no matter how many expensive clothes you wear, you will always be common. You can never be a real gentleman." These words deeply hurt Pip, but he still does not give up. He spends more money, buys more expensive clothes, holds more grand parties, trying to prove to Estella that he is a gentleman. But the more he does this, the more empty he feels, the more he misses the simple life on the marsh. As time goes by, Pip's life begins to fall apart. He spends money like water, and soon falls into debt. He tries to make more money, but he has no ability or experience, so he can only get deeper and deeper into debt. At the same time, he begins to doubt the identity of his benefactor. He finds that Miss Havisham's attitude towards him is getting colder and colder, and she never mentions anything about marrying Estella. He starts to realize that maybe his benefactor is not Miss Havisham at all. This doubt makes him more and more anxious and confused. He begins to miss the simple life on the marsh, miss Joe's kindness, but he is too proud to go back. He is trapped in the vanity he has created, unable to get out. Pip's debt is getting more and more, and his creditors are chasing him everywhere. He is forced to sell his expensive clothes, his furniture, and even his house. He lives a poor life, and his so-called friends all leave him. He is alone, lonely, and desperate. To regret his past mistakes, regret his vanity and selfishness, regret his coldness to Joe. He realizes that all the wealth and status he has pursued so hard are just empty illusions, and that he has lost the most precious things in his life: kindness, sincerity, and the love of his loved ones. The turning point comes when the mysterious benefactor finally appears. To Pip's great surprise, his benefactor is not Miss Havisham, but the convict Magwitch whom he helped many years ago. Magwitch was exiled to Australia after being arrested, but he worked hard day and night, made a lot of money, and all of this money was sent to Pip, hoping to make Pip a gentleman, to repay Pip's kindness. Magwitch risked his life to return to England to see Pip, to tell him the truth. When Pip learns the truth, he is shocked and devastated. He can't believe that his great expectations are built on the money of a convict. He feels ashamed and disgusted, not only for Magwitch's identity, but also for his own vanity and ingratitude. He realizes that all the wealth and status he has pursued so hard are just empty illusions, and that he has lost the most precious things in his life: kindness, sincerity, and the love of his loved ones. Magwitch's appearance is a great blow to Pip. He looks at Magwitch, who is old and haggard, with grey hair and a weathered face, and he feels a deep sense of guilt. He remembers the cold Christmas Eve when he helped Magwitch, remembers Magwitch's grateful eyes. He realizes that Magwitch is a kind man, a man who knows how to repay kindness. But he himself, after getting the money, has become a vain and selfish man, forgetting all the kindness he has received. He falls to his knees, cries bitterly, and apologizes to Magwitch. He says, "Magwitch, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I forgot your kindness. I became a vain and selfish man. Please forgive me." Magwitch helps him up, and says gently, "Pip, my boy, I don't blame you. I just want you to be a gentleman, to have a better life. I'm glad that you have finally woken up." After learning the truth, Pip's character begins to change again. He starts to reflect on his own mistakes, to regret his coldness to Joe, to regret his vanity and selfishness. He decides to make up for his mistakes. He goes back to the marsh to see Joe, but at that time, Joe's wife has died, and Joe has married Biddy, a kind and gentle girl who has always cared about Pip. Pip apologizes to Joe sincerely, and Joe forgives him without hesitation. Joe's kindness and tolerance make Pip even more ashamed. He realizes that Joe's love is the most pure and sincere love, and that the simple life on the marsh is the most real and happy life. When Pip returns to the marsh, he is nervous and anxious. He does not know if Joe will forgive him, if Biddy will forgive him. He stands at the door of Joe's house, hesitating for a long time. Finally, he knocks on the door. Joe opens the door, and when he sees Pip, he is surprised, but then he smiles warmly. He says, "Pip, my boy, you're back. Come in, come in." Pip walks into the house, and sees Biddy busy in the kitchen. Biddy turns around, sees Pip, and smiles gently. "Pip, welcome back." Pip's eyes are full of tears, and he says, "Joe, Biddy, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for what I did to you. I was vain and selfish. I forgot your kindness. I treated you coldly. Please forgive me." Joe puts his hand on Pip's shoulder, and says, "Pip, I have already forgiven you. You are my boy. No matter what you do, I will always forgive you. Biddy and I have been waiting for you to come back." Biddy also says, "Pip, it's never too late to correct your mistakes. We are glad that you have finally woken up." At the same time, Pip also begins to understand Estella. He learns about Miss Havisham's tragic past, learns that Estella is just a victim of Miss Havisham's revenge. He feels sorry for Estella, and he also realizes that his love for Estella is not real love, but a kind of obsession with the noble life she represents. He begins to let go of his obsession with Estella, and starts to focus on his own life. He decides to work hard, to pay off his debts, to become a responsible person, and to live a simple and honest life like Joe. Pip stays on the marsh for a while, helping Joe in the blacksmith shop. He works hard every day, hammering iron, sweating, but he feels happy and peaceful. He no longer cares about wealth and status, no longer cares about being a gentleman. He just wants to live a simple and honest life, to repay the kindness of Joe and Biddy, to make up for his past mistakes. During this time, he often thinks about Estella, but he no longer has the obsession he used to have. He understands that Estella is a poor girl, a victim of Miss Havisham's revenge. He hopes that Estella can break free from the shadow of the past, find her own happiness. Magwitch is arrested soon after his return to England. Pip tries his best to help him, to get him out of prison, but he fails. Magwitch is sentenced to death. Before his death, Pip stays by his side, tells him that he is grateful for his kindness, and tells him that he has become a better person. Magwitch dies with a smile, knowing that his kindness has been passed on. Magwitch's death makes Pip more deeply realize the meaning of life. He understands that wealth and status are not important. What is important is the kindness in the heart, the gratitude to others, and the responsibility to oneself. On the day Magwitch dies, the sky is grey, and it is raining gently. Pip sits by Magwitch's side, holding his hand. Magwitch's hands are cold and rough, but they are full of warmth. He looks at Pip, and says with a weak voice, "Pip, my boy, I'm glad that I could help you. I'm glad that you have become a good man. Remember, be kind to others, be grateful for the kindness you receive. That's the most important thing in life." Pip nods, tears streaming down his face. He says, "Magwitch, I will. I will remember your words. I will be a kind man. I will repay the kindness of others." Magwitch smiles, closes his eyes, and takes his last breath. Pip sits there, crying for a long time. He knows that Magwitch is a great man, a man who has a kind heart and knows how to repay kindness. He decides to live his life in memory of Magwitch, to be a kind and honest person. After Magwitch's death, Pip goes to work in Herbert's company. He works hard every day, lives a simple life, and gradually pays off his debts. He no longer pursues great expectations, but focuses on the present. He learns to cherish the people around him, to be kind to others, and to be honest with himself. He becomes a mature, responsible, and kind man. In the end, Pip returns to the marsh, returns to Joe's side. He lives a simple and peaceful life, and he finds true happiness in this simple life. He realizes that the true great expectations are not wealth and status, but the growth of the heart, the purity of the soul, and the love of the people around him. Pip's growth is a long and painful process. He goes from innocence to vanity, from selfishness to kindness, from confusion to maturity. He makes mistakes, he regrets, he suffers, but he never gives up. He bravely faces his own mistakes, bravely corrects them, and finally finds his own way in life. His story tells us that everyone will grow up, everyone will make mistakes, but as long as we have the courage to reflect, the courage to change, and the courage to pursue the truth, we can get rid of the shadow of the past and find our own happiness. Dear friend, as we talk about Pip's growth, do you feel a little touched? We are all like Pip in some way. We may have chased the wrong things, we may have made mistakes, we may have hurt the people who care about us, but as long as we have the courage to wake up, the courage to change, we can always find our way back to the right path. Life is a journey of growth, and every mistake, every regret, is a part of our growth. It is through these mistakes and regrets that we become more mature, more responsible, more kind. Now, let us talk about another important character in the novel, Miss Havisham. Miss Havisham is a tragic character, and her story is full of sorrow and regret. She was born into a wealthy family, and she was once a beautiful and innocent girl who had a deep love for her fiancé. She spent a lot of money preparing for her wedding, and she was looking forward to a happy life with her fiancé. But on the wedding day, her fiancé abandoned her, took all her money, and left her alone at the wedding venue. This blow was too heavy for Miss Havisham. She was deeply hurt, and her heart was filled with hatred and resentment. She could not accept this reality, so she decided to freeze time, to live in the moment of being abandoned forever. Miss Havisham's childhood was a happy one. She was born into a wealthy family, and she was the apple of her father's eye. She was beautiful, kind, and innocent, and she had a bright future. When she met her fiancé, she fell in love with him deeply. She thought that he was the love of her life, that they would get married and live a happy life together. She spent a lot of money preparing for their wedding, buying beautiful wedding dresses, decorating the wedding venue, and inviting all their relatives and friends. She was looking forward to the wedding day, looking forward to becoming his wife, but the wedding day became the most painful day of her life. She put on her beautiful wedding dress, put on her jewelry, and waited for her fiancé to come. But hour after hour passed, and he did not come. Finally, she received a letter from him, telling her that he did not love her, that he only loved her money. He had taken all her money and left England. Miss Havisham was devastated. She could not believe that the man she loved so deeply would betray her. She fell to the ground, crying bitterly, and her heart was broken into pieces. From that day on, she changed. She became cold, cruel, and full of hatred. She decided to freeze time, to live in the moment of being abandoned forever. From that day on, Miss Havisham stopped all the clocks in her house at the time when her fiancé left her. She wore her wedding dress all day long, which became tattered and yellow over time. She lived in a dark and decaying house, never going out, never seeing the sun. She surrounded herself with the relics of her wedding, and every day she sat in the dark, recalling the pain of being abandoned, and nurturing her hatred. She hated all men, because she thought that all men were selfish and cruel, just like her fiancé. She decided to take revenge on all men, and her tool of revenge was Estella. Miss Havisham's house is a symbol of her frozen heart. The clocks are all stopped, the wedding feast is still set on the table, the flowers are withered, the cakes are moldy. Everything in the house is frozen in time, just like her heart. She never goes out, never sees the sun, because she does not want to face the reality, does not want to accept that her fiancé has betrayed her. She lives in her own world of hatred, and she refuses to come out. She thinks that by taking revenge on all men, she can ease her pain, but she does not know that hatred is a double-edged sword. It hurts others, and it also hurts herself. Miss Havisham adopted Estella when she was a baby. She raised Estella with all her heart, but not with love, but with hatred. She taught Estella to be cold, arrogant, and indifferent, to never fall in love with any man, to break men's hearts, just like her own heart was broken. She wanted Estella to become a heartless weapon, to make all men feel the pain she had suffered. But in doing so, she also destroyed Estella's life. Estella grew up without love, without warmth, and she did not know how to love, nor how to be loved. She was just a puppet controlled by Miss Havisham's hatred, a poor child who lost her way in the darkness. Miss Havisham treated Estella very strictly. She did not allow Estella to show any emotion, did not allow her to laugh, did not allow her to cry. She taught Estella to look down on men, to mock them, to break their hearts. She told Estella, "All men are selfish and cruel. They will only hurt you, so you must never fall in love with any man. You must break their hearts, just like they broke mine." Estella listened to Miss Havisham's words, and she became cold and heartless. She did not know what love was, nor did she know what warmth was. She was just a tool of revenge, a puppet without feelings. For many years, Miss Havisham lived in her own world of hatred. She watched Estella break the hearts of one man after another, and she felt a twisted sense of satisfaction. She thought that this was her revenge on all men, that this was the way to ease her pain. But deep in her heart, she was not happy. She was lonely, she was sad, and she missed the days when she was innocent and happy. She knew that her hatred was destroying others, but she could not stop. She was trapped in her own hatred, unable to get out. Every night, Miss Havisham would sit in the dark, looking at her tattered wedding dress, recalling the past. She would think about the happy days with her fiancé, think about the dreams she had for the future. She would cry silently, but she would not allow herself to show any weakness. She thought that hatred was the only thing that could support her, that without hatred, she would not be able to live. But she did not know that hatred was slowly destroying her soul, making her more and more miserable. The turning point in Miss Havisham's life came when she saw Pip's pain and Estella's misfortune. She began to realize that her revenge had not brought her any happiness, but had destroyed 2 young lives. She saw that Pip, who was once a kind and innocent boy, had become vain and selfish because of his pursuit of great expectations, and that Estella, who was once a beautiful and innocent girl, had become cold and heartless because of her training. She began to regret her actions. She realized that her hatred was not only hurting others, but also hurting herself. One day, Pip came to Saty's house to see Estella. Miss Havisham saw Pip's pain and despair, saw how much he loved Estella, and how much Estella's coldness hurt him. She also saw Estella's inner pain, saw that Estella was not really cold-hearted, but just did not know how to express her feelings. At that moment, Miss Havisham's heart was touched. She began to realize that her revenge was wrong, that she had destroyed 2 young lives. She began to regret her actions, began to want to make up for her mistakes. One day, Miss Havisham was sitting in her dark room, looking at the tattered wedding dress on her body, and recalling the past. She felt deep regret and remorse. She wanted to make up for her mistakes, to save Estella, to help Pip. She told Pip the truth about Estella's origin, and she gave Pip a lot of money, hoping that he could help Estella get rid of the shadow of the past. But it was too late. Estella had already married a man she did not love, and she was living a painful life. Miss Havisham's regret was too late, and her repentance could not change the past. Miss Havisham told Pip that Estella was the daughter of Magwitch and a woman named Molly. She had adopted Estella because she wanted to take revenge on Magwitch, who had once been her fiancé's partner. But she later realized that she was wrong. that Estella was innocent, that she should not have used Estella as a tool of revenge. She gave Pip a lot of money, hoping that he could help Estella, that he could make Estella happy. But Pip refused the money. He said, "Miss Havisham, money can't make up for the mistakes you have made. Estella needs love, not money. I will help her, but I don't need your money." In the end, Miss Havisham died in a fire. The fire broke out in her house, and she was trapped in the flames. Before she died, she begged for forgiveness. She begged Pip to forgive her for the pain she had brought to him and Estella. She died with deep regret, but her repentance also made her soul get a kind of redemption. Miss Havisham's story tells us that hatred is a terrible thing. It can destroy others, and it can also destroy ourselves. No matter how deep the pain is, we should not let hatred take over our hearts. Forgiveness and letting go are the only ways to get rid of pain and get redemption. The fire broke out on a cold winter night. The wind was howling, and the flames were roaring. Miss Havisham was sitting in her room, looking at her wedding dress, when the fire started. She was trapped in the room, and she could not get out. Pip rushed to the house, trying to save her. He broke the door open, and saw Miss Havisham standing in the flames. She was wearing her tattered wedding dress, and her hair was on fire. She looked at Pip, and said with a weak voice, "Pip, forgive me. Forgive me for what I did to you and Estella. I'm sorry. I was wrong." Pip tried to pull her out of the flames, but she pushed him away. She said, "No, Pip. I deserve to die. I have done too many bad things. Let me die in the flames. It's my punishment." Pip watched as the flames engulfed her, and he cried bitterly. He knew that Miss Havisham was a tragic woman, a woman who had been hurt deeply, a woman who had finally repented but was too late. Next, let us talk about Estella, the most beautiful and tragic character in the novel. Estella is a symbol of beauty and coldness. She was adopted by Miss Havisham when she was a baby, and she was raised to be a tool of revenge. Miss Havisham taught her to be cold, arrogant, and indifferent, to never show any emotion, to break men's hearts without hesitation. Estella grew up in this environment, and she gradually lost the ability to love. She was beautiful, elegant, and had a noble temperament, but her heart was like ice, cold and hard. Estella's childhood was a lonely one. She was raised in Satis House, a dark and gloomy place, without any warmth, without any love. Miss Havisham treated her strictly, taught her to be cold and heartless, and did not allow her to make friends. She had no one to play with, no one to talk to, no one to give her love and care. She grew up in loneliness and coldness, and she gradually became cold and indifferent. She did not know what love was, nor did she know what warmth was. She thought that the only purpose of her life was to break men's hearts, to take revenge on all men. When Estella first met Pip, she was just a little girl. But even at that age, she was already cold and arrogant. She looked down on Pip's humble origin, mocked his rough hands and vulgar words, and called him common. She did not know that her words would hurt Pip deeply, nor did she know that her coldness was a kind of protection for herself. She was just following Miss Havisham's teachings, doing what she was told to do. As she grew up, she became more and more beautiful, and more cold. She attracted many men, but she broke all their hearts. She did not care about their feelings, nor did she care about the pain she brought to them. She thought that this was the meaning of her life, that this was what she was supposed to do. Estella was very beautiful. She had long hair, bright eyes, and a delicate face. She was elegant and noble, and every man who saw her was deeply attracted by her. But her heart was cold and hard. She did not know how to love, nor did she know how to be loved. She treated every man who loved her coldly, mocked them, and broke their hearts. She thought that this was the way to protect herself, that if she did not fall in love with any man, she would not be hurt. But deep in her heart, she was lonely, she was sad, and she longed for love and warmth. But deep in Estella's heart, there is a longing for warmth and love. She is not really cold-hearted. She just does not know how to express her feelings. She has never felt love, never felt warmth, so she does not know what love is, nor does she know how to love others. When she is with Pip, she sometimes feels a kind of strange emotion, a kind of desire to get close to him. But she suppresses this emotion, because she is afraid that this emotion will make her lose control, that this emotion will make her fail Miss Havisham's expectations. She continues to be cold to Pip, continues to break his heart, but in her heart, she is also suffering. Every time Estella sees Pip, she feels a strange emotion in her heart. She is attracted by Pip's kindness and sincerity, but she does not know how to express it. She is afraid that if she shows her feelings, Miss Havisham will be angry, that she will fail Miss Havisham's expectations. She also afraid that if she falls in love with Pip, she will be hurt, just like Miss Havisham was hurt. So she continues to be cold to Pip, continues to mock him, but deep in her heart, she is suffering. She wants to get close to Pip, wants to feel his warmth, but she does not have the courage. After Estella grows up, she marries Bentley Drummle, a wealthy but cruel man. Drummle treats her badly, beats her, and humiliates her. Estella lives a painful life, but she does not complain. She thinks that this is her fate, that this is the punishment she deserves for breaking so many men's hearts. But even in such a painful life, she still does not give up. She tries to find a glimmer of hope, tries to find a way out of the pain. Bentley Drummle is a cruel and selfish man. He comes from a wealthy family, but he has no kindness, no sympathy. He marries Estella only because of her beauty, only because he wants to show off his wealth and status. He treats Estella badly, beats her, humiliates her, and makes her life miserable. Estella lives in pain every day, but she does not leave him. She thinks that this is her punishment, that she deserves to suffer. She also thinks that she has no right to be happy, because she has hurt so many people. The turning point in Estella's life came when she learned the truth about her origin and Miss Havisham's revenge. She realized that she was just a tool of Miss Havisham's revenge, that her coldness and indifference were not her own choice, but the result of Miss Havisham's training. She also realized that Pip's love for her was sincere, and that she had hurt Pip deeply. She began to regret her actions, began to yearn for the warmth and love that she had missed. Pip told Estella the truth about her origin. He told her that she was the daughter of Magwitch and Molly, that Miss Havisham had adopted her to take revenge on Magwitch. He also told her that Miss Havisham had repented, that she was sorry for what she had done to her. Estella was shocked and devastated. She could not believe that her life was a lie, that she had been used as a tool of revenge. She cried bitterly, and she realized that all her coldness and indifference were not her own fault, that she was a victim. After Drummle's death, Estella returns to Pip. She has changed a lot. She is no longer cold and arrogant, she has become gentle and humble. She apologizes to Pip sincerely, and tells him that she has learned to love, that she has learned to cherish. She tells Pip that she regrets the pain she has brought to him, and that she hopes to have a chance to make up for it. Pip forgives her, because he knows that Estella is also a victim. He does not expect to have a romantic relationship with her, but he is glad that Estella has finally found her own way, that she has finally learned to love. Drummle died in a horse riding accident. After his death, Estella was free. She left the luxurious house, left the painful memories, and went to find Pip. When she saw Pip, she was nervous and anxious. She did not know if Pip would forgive her, if Pip would accept her. She said to Pip, "Pip, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for what I did to you. I was cold and heartless, I hurt you deeply. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I hope you can give me a chance to make up for it." Pip looked at her, and saw the sincerity and regret in her eyes. He said, "Estella, I forgive you. I know you are a victim. I'm glad that you have finally woken up, that you have finally learned to love." Estella's growth and change are touching. She changed from a girl bound by hatred and control, a puppet without feelings, to a woman who can love, cherish, and be grateful. She was once a victim of Miss Havisham's revenge, a poor child who lost her way in the darkness, but she did not sink in the pain and despair. She bravely faced her own mistakes, bravely broke free from the shackles of the past, and finally found her own light and happiness. Her growth tells us that no matter how dark the past is, no matter how painful the experience is, as long as we have the courage to wake up, have the courage to change, and have the courage to pursue warmth and love, we can get rid of the shadow of the past and find our own happy life. Dear friend, as we talk about Estella's growth bit by bit, do you feel a little warmth in your heart? These characters in Great Expectations, like us, have their own shortcomings and deficiencies, have their own confusion and pain, have their own mistakes and regrets. But they are all trying to grow, trying to redeem themselves, trying to find their own way in the tide of fate. Pip, Miss Havisham, Estella, each of them has a different life trajectory, each of them has a different growth experience, but they all tell us the same truth. The most precious thing in life is not wealth and status, not fame and fortune, but the kindness and gratitude in the heart, the courage to reflect and change, the warmth of the people around us, and the adherence to our own original intention. Let us continue to walk slowly into the world of these characters, and talk about those people who have also left a deep impression on us, those people who have quietly influenced the growth of Pip, Miss Havisham, and Estella. They may not be the core characters of the story, but their existence makes the story more vivid and real, makes the characters more three-dimensional and plump, and also brings us more thoughts and touches. First, let us talk about Joe Gorgory, Pip's brother-in-law, the most gentle and sincere person in the entire story. Joe is a simple blacksmith, born humble, not educated, and speaks vulgar, but his heart is pure and kind, like the warm sunshine in the cold marsh, like the clear spring in the desert. He has always treated Pip sincerely, raised Pip like his own child, and given Pip the most precious warmth and love in his childhood. Joe's life is simple and hard. He is a blacksmith, and he works hard every day, hammering iron, sweating. He does not have much money, does not have a high status, but he is content with his life. He is kind and sincere, and he treats everyone around him with kindness. He never complains about his life, never envies others' wealth and status. He just wants to live a simple and peaceful life, to take care of Pip, to take care of his family. When Pip was a child, he was often beaten and scolded by his sister, and he lived in fear and inferiority. It was Joe who always protected him, comforted him, and told him that kindness is the most precious thing. Joe would take Pip to the marsh to breathe fresh air, would share his little food with Pip, would smile and listen to Pip's trivial troubles, would encourage Pip to be a kind and honest person. Joe's love is not grand, not sensational, but plain and sincere, like a trickle, quietly moistening Pip's heart, planting the seed of kindness in Pip's heart. Every time Pip was beaten by his sister, Joe would take him in his arms, comfort him, and say, "Pip, my boy, don't cry. It's okay. I'm here." Kindness is the most precious thing in the world. As long as you are kind, you will be happy. Joe would also take Pip to the blacksmith shop, let him watch him hammer iron, and tell him, "Pip, work hard, be honest, and you will have a good life. You don't need to be rich, you don't need to be a gentleman. As long as you are kind and honest, you are a good man." Even when Pip became a gentleman in London, even when Pip was cold to him, even when Pip deliberately alienated him, Joe did not blame Pip, did not hate Pip. He still cared about Pip silently, still regarded Pip as his dearest person. When Pip was ill, Joe rushed to London from the marsh, took care of Pip day and night, fed Pip medicine, wiped Pip's sweat, and did not leave Pip's side until Pip recovered. When Pip lost all his wealth and became penniless, Joe did not abandon him, but took Pip back to the marsh, let Pip live with him, and helped Pip start over. Joe's kindness and tolerance are like a mirror, reflecting the beauty of human nature, and also supporting Pip to wake up and grow. When Pip was ill in London, he was alone and desperate. He had no money, no friends, and he was very ill. Joe heard the news, and he immediately rushed to London. He did not have much money, so he took a carriage for a long time, and walked a long way. When he arrived at Pip's house, he saw Pip lying in bed, pale and weak. He was very sad, and he immediately took care of Pip. He fed Pip medicine, wiped Pip's sweat, washed Pip's clothes, and stayed by Pip's side day and night. He did not complain, did not ask for anything in return. He just wanted Pip to get better. When Pip recovered, Joe left quietly, without telling Pip. He did not want to disturb Pip, did not want to make Pip feel embarrassed. Joe's character has never changed from beginning to end. He is always simple, sincere, kind, and honest. He does not pursue wealth and status, does not care about fame and fortune, and only wants to live a peaceful and happy life with the people he loves. He is content with what he has, and he finds joy in the simple trivialities of life, hammering a horseshoe in the blacksmith shop at dawn, sharing a bowl of hot porridge with Biddy at dusk, and listening to the wind blowing through the marsh at night. Joe's kindness is not deliberate, nor is it for any reward. It is a kind of instinct, a kind of purity that comes from the bottom of his heart. He does not know how to flatter, does not know how to disguise, and he always treats others with his true heart, even if he is wronged or neglected. Joe's love for Pip is the most selfless love. He never asks Pip to repay him, never blames Pip for his coldness and ingratitude, and always waits for Pip to return with an open heart. When Pip is at his lowest, when he loses all his wealth and is trapped in despair, it is Joe who reaches out his hand to him, pulls him out of the quagmire, and gives him a warm harbor. Joe does not mention Pip's past mistakes, does not complain about Pip's neglect. He just quietly takes care of Pip, lets him feel the warmth of home again, and lets him remember what it means to be kind and honest. It is Joe's unwavering kindness that wakes up Pip's sleeping conscience, makes Pip realize his mistakes, and gives him the courage to start over. Let us think quietly for a moment, how many people like Joe are there in our lives? They are ordinary, humble, and even a little clumsy. They do not have magnificent words, do not have earth-shaking deeds, but they always stand by our sides silently, giving us warmth and strength when we are in trouble, forgiving our mistakes when we are willful, and waiting for our return when we are lost. They are like the warm fire in the cold winter, like the cool breeze in the hot summer, silently guarding us, and their kindness is the most precious gift in our lives. Tonight, as we think about Joe, let us also think about those who have been kind to us, and let us keep that gratitude in our hearts, which will bring us endless peace and comfort. Next, let us talk about Biddy, another warm and kind character in the novel. Biddy is a simple and gentle girl who grows up with Pip in the village. She is not as beautiful as Estella, not as wealthy as Miss Havisham, but she has a pure and kind heart, and a pair of eyes that can see through the essence of things. Biddy is intelligent and sensible. She knows Pip's strengths and weaknesses, and she always cares about Pip silently, even when Pip is carried away by vanity and alienates her. Biddy's childhood is also not easy. She is an orphan, just like Pip, and she lives a simple life in the village. But she is not as inferior and sensitive as Pip. She is optimistic and calm, and she knows how to cherish the present life. She is good at observing, and she can always see the true side of people. When Pip is still an innocent child, Biddy is his good friend, playing with him on the marsh, listening to his troubles, and comforting him when he is wronged by his sister. When Pip begins to yearn for the noble life and becomes distant from the village, Biddy does not blame him, nor does she feel sad. She just silently wishes him well, and continues to live her simple life, guarding her own kindness and sincerity. When Pip leaves the marsh to go to London, Biddy tells him sincerely, "Pip, take care of yourself. Remember to write to us. Remember to keep your original intention." These simple words are full of her care and expectation for Pip. She knows that the prosperity of London is easy to make people lose themselves, so she reminds Pip to remember where he comes from, to remember the kindness he has received. When Pip is cold to Joe and even avoids him, Biddy does not criticize Pip harshly. She just gently persuades Joe, telling him that Pip is just confused, that he will eventually wake up. She also takes good care of Joe when Pip is not around, and brings warmth to Joe's life. Biddy is a very wise girl. She does not pursue wealth and status, nor does she envy the luxurious life of others. She knows that the true happiness comes from the inner peace and the love of the people around her. When Pip returns to the marsh, full of regret and guilt, Biddy does not blame him, but smiles and welcomes him back, telling him that it is never too late to correct his mistakes. She is gentle but firm, kind but sensible, and she uses her own way to warm Pip, to help Pip get out of the shadow of his mistakes. Later, Biddy marries Joe, and they live a simple and happy life together. They are both kind and sincere, and they complement each other. Biddy takes care of Joe's life, and Joe gives Biddy a stable and warm home. They do not have much money, do not have a high status, but they are very happy. Their life is like a calm lake, no waves, but full of warmth and peace. They also take care of Pip silently, and when Pip needs help, they are always the first to stand by his side. Biddy's existence is like a ray of soft light, gentle but powerful, bringing warmth and hope to the people around her. Dear friend, as we talk about Joe and Biddy, do you feel a warm current flowing through your heart? They are ordinary people, with no magnificent life, no earth-shaking achievements, but they use their own kindness and sincerity to warm the people around them, to interpret the most beautiful side of human nature. In this complicated world, we are often busy chasing wealth and status, busy with trivial things, and we often forget the kindness and warmth around us. But Joe and Biddy tell us that the most precious thing in life is not those external things, but the kindness in our hearts, the sincerity between people, and the warm companionship of our loved ones. Now, let us talk about Magwitch, the convict who changed Pip's life. Magwitch is a complex character, with a rough appearance but a kind heart. He was born in poverty, and he was forced to become a convict because of his difficult life. He has experienced too much pain and suffering in his life, has been wronged and discriminated against, but he has never lost his kindness, never forgotten the little warmth he received when Magwitch was in the marsh, cold and hungry, on the verge of despair. It was the young Pip who gave him food and a file, gave him a glimmer of hope in the darkness. That little kindness, like a seed, took root and sprouted in Magwitch's heart. He worked hard day and night in Australia, endured all kinds of hardships, just to make a lot of money, to repay Pip's kindness, to let Pip live a better life, to let Pip become the gentleman he could never be. Magwitch's life is full of hardships. He was exiled to Australia, away from his hometown and relatives, and he suffered all kinds of hardships. But he never complained, never gave up. He worked hard, saved money, and all his efforts were for Pip. He risked his life to return to England to see Pip, just to tell Pip the truth, just to see the young man he had raised with his hard work. When he saw that Pip had become a vain and selfish man, he did not blame Pip, but only felt sorry for him. He just wanted Pip to be happy, to be a good man. Magwitch's kindness is great and selfless. He has suffered so much, but he still chooses to be kind to others. He does not ask for any reward, does not expect Pip to repay him. He just wants to use his own way to pass on the kindness he received. His death is tragic, but his kindness is eternal. He uses his life to tell us that no matter how difficult life is, no matter how much suffering we have experienced, we should always keep our kindness, always remember the warmth we received, and pass that warmth on to others. Dear friend, as we talk about these characters one by one, Pip, Miss Havisham, Estella, Joe, Biddy, Magwitch, do you feel that their stories are like a warm blanket, wrapping around us, bringing us comfort and peace? Each of them has their own joys and sorrows, their own confusion and growth, their own mistakes and redemption. They are not perfect, they have their own shortcomings and deficiencies, but they are all trying to live, trying to grow, trying to find the true meaning of life. Tonight, we have walked through the lives of these characters together, felt their emotions, and understood their growth. We have seen Pip's transformation from innocence to vanity, from selfishness to kindness. We have seen Miss Havisham's tragedy from love to hatred, from revenge to repentance. We have seen Estella's growth from coldness to warmth, from being a puppet to finding her own happiness. We have also seen Joe, Biddy, and Magwitch's unwavering kindness, which is like a light, illuminating the dark road of life. As the night deepens, the moon is still hanging gently in the sky, and the soft glow is still spilling through the window. Let us take another deep breath, inhale the cool night air, and exhale all the worries and tensions in our hearts. These characters in Great Expectations have told us that life is a journey of growth, full of ups and downs, full of mistakes and regrets, but as long as we have the courage to reflect, the courage to change, and the courage to keep our kindness, we can always find our own way, find our own happiness. My voice is getting softer and softer, and the night is getting quieter and quieter. Let the stories of these characters linger in your heart, let their kindness warm your heart. Let go of all the noise and distractions, let go of all the worries and anxieties, and let your mind and body relax completely. You are safe, you are accompanied, and you will drift off to a peaceful sleep soon. Good night, dear friend. May you have a sweet dream, and may you wake up tomorrow with a calm heart and a kind smile.